Hey y'all, my name is Ben, and today I'm going to be talking about 9/4/1615, uh, an exhibition by Martin Margiela. So, a little context, Martin Margiela is a kind of infamous anti-fashion designer who founded the house Maison Margiela, um, which has kind of acquired a cult following, I guess. So this exhibition was put on at the Museum Boymans van Beuningen. I might be mispronouncing that. Um, and it was a series of 9 pieces that were kind of had bacteria growth on them. And so they went through a process which involved soaking the fabric in a bacteria infested water and then being kept in a controlled environment similar to a greenhouse for 4 days, and then eventually being put out on display. And the pieces were left outside, they were facing in, there was like a window between, and so they were exposed to the elements, um, and this caused a lot of mutation and sun bleaching to the clothes. Um, and so the title 9/4/1615 derives from the time that's involved in the project, and time is also a very uh, is kind of a main theme in the house of Mason Margiela, and is used as a reference a lot. So the time involved in the project was 9 years of collections, one from each of the collections he's done from the shows, um, and then being kept in kind of controlled, contained growth for 4 days, and then the total display hours being 1,615. Um, so very precise timing there. Um, and so it's kind of this exhibition is about taking something beloved, like Mason Margiela as a brand is very much kind of put on a pedestal. Um, I mean, rightfully so. Like it's a very, very beautiful, beautiful work. But it's kind of about taking this thing, which like when a lot of these pieces are displayed, it's like very clean, like whoa, like look at the pieces, like it's like beautiful. Um, and it's kind of taking something that's always that's very beloved and putting a twist on it and kind of and ruining the pieces, right? Um, and I think exhibiting it puts it in kind of the similar. It relates to the ways that the fashion shows are put on, because I think runway is often related to like glamour and kind of like flashiness a lot of the time, especially at the time that um, that Martin Margiela was still at the company. Um, and it's the same thing with an art gallery. You put something in an art gallery, and all of a sudden it's like feels way more important, and to society is way more important. So it's putting it in a similar context as the runways, but in the same way that that Mason Margiela runways are very much kind of spit in the face of the norm, I guess, um, and definitely change what our expectations are. I think that this does the same thing. It's very on brand with Martin. Um, and so it puts it in a similar context, but it's showing these like ruined clothes that like you wouldn't look twice at if it was like, in a garbage dump, or like if you found it in like a forest or something, right? You're like, that's just like a dirty piece of clothing. Like, who left, if someone come get their sweater. So I think that I said that it's a commentary on the natural life of things and the kind of the natural trajectory of life, and it confronts society's attempted escape from mortality. Um, so it's kind of like looking us in the face, like this is how clothes age, this is how clothes should age. It kind of feels like a rejection of like of consumption. You know, the fact that these things are like it's so destroyed, but we can still call it beautiful, I guess, and it can still have value to it. So I connected this to Ai Weiwei's dropping a Han Dynasty urn, which is a series of 3 photographs of him basically dropping an urn, right? Ai Weiwei is like a quite controversial artist, does a lot of like sculpture work and found object work, but always very kind of rejecting tradition, I guess. Um, and I said that these series of photographs, sorry, break the boundaries of what culture deems powerful. Taking an urn, a dynasty urn, which is like a symbol of power and like glory and tradition, and just completely rejecting it, breaking it on the ground, which is like, you know. And I also said this also kind of reminded me of Comme des Garçons fragrance lines, and how they took something like a fragrance, which is often about like, again, glamour and like sexiness and, you know, kind of this like seduction, and turning it and flipping it on its head, and they make like notes of iron and like metallic stuff like that, and kind of making like gross or unsettling sense, things that you wouldn't necessarily think that people want on their body, but yet they still make them. Um, and so I kind of connected those together. So, um, kind of as a conclusion, I guess what I can learn from this is how art can cause us to shift our expectations. Kind of this, it blurs the high and low in new ways. Um, and a question for myself is, how can I put this into my own practices as an artist, and how can I use this as, um, you know, a format into which I can make my own art, and shifting expectations. Um, and yeah, this is very interesting to me, and I hope you enjoyed. And please leave a comment, and I want to have a conversation. Bye. Thank you.